Hey guys, VaulSC here, how you going? Gonna play another game of infiNity as always. This time between the new Dashat Company, not too sure how to pronounce their name, but they are a brand new sectorial which has come out in the new Daedalus VaulSC, and we're going up against our classic, very common opponent, Caledonia, the Scots. And it will be a game of supplies as well. Not my favorite mission, but you know, it's not as bad as some of the other ones. So we'll be talking about that shortly. Dashat Company though, I really like the sectorial, and what we're going to be doing is just jumping into a quick view of the lists that are going to be played for this game. I believe that these guys are going to be a bit of a focus for me in the near future, as well as Shazvasti, of course. You will have seen the Shazvasti breakdown video just recently, but these guys may be the next one because I think that they're really interesting. Dashat have got everything that I look for, just about everything that I look for in a sectorial. So they've got a really ball-busting way of blasting arrow pieces in the form of your Zhu Yong in link team with HMG, tactical awareness, no less. In terms of AROs, obviously they can have the missile launcher Zhu Yong in there as well, so you've got to like that. In terms of specialists, you've got your wonderful Zensha in there. You can take Hunzakuts, and they've got tons of cheerleaders as well. The wildcard options are fantastic, and it's really easy to get a really huge, robust order count into your Dashat list. So I'll be playing them for sure. What I think is really cool though is that we finally get to see this Sforza, Lucien Sforza bounty hunter on the table. Before now, I would have said that he's really bad. Like, he's just not worth his points. There's other stuff that you can take. But now that he can be wildcarded into a Zhu Yong link team or any other sort of, line infantry link team, I'm really interested in playing him. Not only that, but they've given Total Immunity a massive buff recently. And when you look at what McMurray can do, it's pretty scary. But the counter to McMurray is a good old viral rifle, and that's exactly what this guy has. And he's going to be in a link team for BS16 and extra dice. So I think that's really cool. That's what I want to try out. Have to just apologize to everybody and also my opponent for not really realizing before this game was played that Saito Togan does not have the specialist operative option in Dashat. You just get the plain old Saito Togan non-specialist. So in future I probably won't be running him as much. He's still very good, don't get me wrong, but if you want a specialist you'll need to go with the amazing Zensha or Hunzakut, both really apt for that role. So during this game, Saito Togan did go and actually open a crate and run off with it. But to be honest, he didn't really do a lot else during that game. I mean, he threw some smoke grenades. I could easily have accomplished what I did in the battle report you're about to watch by using a Hunzakut in there as well for, cracking open the crate, and then for him to run off with it, for example, would have been, just as easy to do. So, really interesting that the Rushi is also linkable now for the first time. The Rushi was just absolutely bonkers before, a very powerful piece, and for some reason they felt the need to put it in the link team. And this is another reason why a lot of people are sort of pointing to the new book and going, well, there's a lot of power creep going on, and I'm inclined to agree a little bit too. The Rushi in a link team is BS15, +3 for range, so 18s, ignoring cover because of your assisted fire, which your Ghulam hacker can put on him very easily with his repeater. 5 dice, what's not to like? I mean, you've got plenty of smoke in this sectorial with Saito and your Kumbiker, and you can take McMurray as well. Only reason I haven't taken McMurray in this particular list is because I'm kind of getting sick of the talk about him, and also I don't have an appropriate model to proxy him, so I've decided to just go with other stuff. But yeah, you can run a full-on Zhu Yong link with a couple of tactical awareness orders in there. They're not quite as good as the Invincible Army Zhu Yong link because you don't have the Tai Shing and the NCO Dao Ying level 2 kind of thing. But it's still really good, and the thing that you can improve on is being able to throw in these 12-point submachine gun Arcalite Canon bounty hunters to keep the costs down. So this particular squad here with Sforza, Ruishi, a couple of bounty hunters, and a Zhu Yong comes in really cheap, allowing you to afford so much other stuff. So I find that's amazing. There are going to be some times though where you're going to be wanting to run a bit more of a a solid hulking pain train with a couple of actual Zhu Yongs in there and maybe the Rushi, and just dispense with the smaller guys. But to be honest, most of my games are going to be filled out with bounty hunters and stuff like that. For some reason, you're allowed to take 3 flashball spots, although problematically, flashballs now do nothing against total immunity, something I kind of disagree with, but there you have it. I love flashball spots, beautiful cheerleaders, so throwing 3 in there, why not? Zensha, yeah, I'm liking him more and more. The climbing plus can be very, very useful for an infiltrating specialist. So yeah, I'm trying to fit the Zensha in more often than not. Ghulam Lieutenant, pretty easy. Whipper 14 for the Lieutenant role. What's not liked about that? Ghulam Hacker again, 14 for the hacking roles. And then you've got the Ariadne, a Doctor, and Engineer. I like the Engineer because he can revive the Rushi, which is quite an important part of your list. But also because he allows you to take these 5-point tractor mules. Sometimes, if you're not going to run like these Libertos like I have, or if you're not going to run like a missile launcher in your link team as well, you'll have some spare SWCs. You can upgrade these guys to the Uragan Total Reaction blasters. Walker in there, and because I didn't have a lot of SWCs used in my main link, I've got a couple of these Liberto guys who are really just going to be up there for laying mines and things like that and being annoying in the midfield. So, pretty strong list. I definitely think you can make a better Dashat list. I probably will be dropping Saito since you can't take the specialist, and just trying to beef up the main link with a missile launcher and a decent ARO piece in future, I think. So that's that. Just a quick look at my opponent's CHA list. He's running the new McMurray, of course. He ordered some new Galwegians, well, some Galwegians that were new for his, collection, but they didn't show up, so he's just running a list without them. So yeah, there's the Volunteer link with the Highlander Grey. He's actually got a secondary Highlander Grey, which I think had a T2 rifle for this game. Cataran T2 Sniper, SAS Lieutenant, which is a bit of an eyebrow raiser. Normally you'd run with Wallace, but whatevs. A couple of support volunteers, Doctor, the Scott with 2 SMGs. I don't love this list, but again, it is a bit limited by the models that he had on hand, and he was just wanting to try out a little bit of a different sort of setup. Normally, I think what you'd do is you'd throw in a lot more Galwegians and pad the list out a bit more. I'm thinking, but that's what we're up against for this one. So, supplies, not really my favorite mission, but, you have to play it sometimes. Supplies annoys me because the player going first can throw smoke grenades in the middle of the field, use their infiltrating specialists to break open the boxes, run away with the supplies themselves, and then hide behind a wall of, mines, crazy koalas, hacking, and jammers. So this is the kind of scenario that sort of makes the rich factions richer and the poor factions poorer in terms of, we already know that Toha and Hakislam and Nomads are sort of up the top there. They just do better and better at scenarios like this because they've just got such great ways of completing this mission. It is what it is though, and we'll be playing through. Okay, so let's talk about the Dashat deployment. Bring my face over here. I'm recording on a different kind of OBS this time. I'm on Streamlabs this time rather than the classic OBS, so hopefully that solves a couple of video issues. Okay, let's get out the old pen. What are we going to use? A nice green here. So this is my the left-hand side of my deployment zone, corner through there, right? So if we look from that perspective, we've got a Libertos here, and this is a little mine there just to defend this corner. Flashballs 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got your tractor mules there, and that's just my whole left-hand flank. We've got a reserve trooper available at Saito, but this is, not particularly shooty over here, but it's defended by a Liberto, so that's kind of nice. Oh, I do need to point out, though, that this particular supply objective is on the 2nd level, and the only way to get onto it, in fact, I moved my head out of the way, this objective, the only way to get onto it is to come up through the boxes here, or climb directly up. So if I can get some mines laid up there, that's going to really help defend it. Through the middle, so we saw the bots over here and the Libertos, we've already looked at that. So from the middle perspective, you've got a Warcore on level 2 up here, and I'm using a lot of proxies, as you guys can tell. I've got another Libertos over here with a mine able to take care of those 2 angles. Mike Zensha, the orange camera mark, you have to look closely. He's actually blending into the table mat there. So, Lieutenant over here, that's a Ghulam Lieutenant, Ghulam Hacker right here. There's a Dozer and a Doctor, so all of the little plebs. And then the link teams over this side, we'll see a bit more of a clearer image of that next. Here it is here. So, Link Team involves the Bounty Hunter, SMG Arclight Canoe, who has picked up +1 armor. There's another Bounty Hunter over here who's picked up an EM close combat weapon with booty. Got a Zuyong tactical awareness HMG. The beautiful Ruishi over here. I am taking the first turn because I did win the roll. I've been relegated to this table side. My opponent's decided to deploy second and take that table side over there. So I will be going first, which is great. I am using Lucien Sforza with Holo Projector 1 to pretend to be Miranda Ashcroft, and I think that helps to disguise him a bit more, because Miranda Ashcroft is the kind of model that you might expect to see in a Link with her combi rifle and ODD. She makes a pretty good point man for some of the fights if they don't have any sort of MSV. So when she comes around the corner, you may expect that you'll have no chance of winning the face-to-face roll, so you go for a dodge up against an ODD. Then it turns out to be Father Lucien Sforza, and he's able to, you know, make the most of his viral rifle or glue gun, as it were. So I quite like Miranda as the option. I also thought of hollowing him in as a Zuyong missile launcher. I don't think you can hollow him in as one of the tactical awareness guys, because otherwise, you know, it becomes very suspect when they see you not using it. So that is that. A couple of little close-ups. So there's the Link Team there. So Bounty Hunter, Zuyong, Ruishi, Father Lucien Sforza pretending to be Miranda, and another Bounty Hunter. I love the new Bounty Hunter profile, by the way, with the SMG. So cheap, and the fact that they're just, you know, perpetual wildcards throughout the whole list is really handy. And a closer look at where my mine placement is. So that's the mine there, and you've got the Libertas back here, Zanjar on the left. Okay, so opponent, a lot of these grey rifles at the back. He's got his, volunteers at the back, grey rifles there. I love his little mine markers, not mine markers, camo markers. He's just put these bases, which he's decorated, and like this, they're invisible on top of that, which I think is really, really cool. Great job with the modeling. For some reason, he's put his SAS Lieutenant up on top here, which was a mistake. Still a little bit inexperienced player. Really, that should be the missile launching Scots Guard or the Cataran, but for some reason he's got the Scott up there. Not really sure. I think this one over here is Uxia. Then he's got the Link Team at the back with all the volunteers and the grey rifle here, of course. So that's the defensive setup. McMurray right on the left here. Along with the Doctor. That is the Cataran on the bottom left as well, with the T2 Sniper. The CSU up the top is his HVT. And yeah, just a closer look. And he's even numbered these little stones so you can see which camo mark is which, right? My reserve trooper is Saito Tugan, but this is a hidden deployment Saito Tugan, so there you have it. And his reserve trooper is the Scott with the missile launcher. I thought that he should have been on top of that little building, that tower, but he's decided to just cover the right-hand flank. That's the flank where all of my flashball spots are hanging out, so it's probably not going to be a very effective missile launcher. Adding a Link Team marker to his grey rifle volunteer group, of course. So Saito Tugan's being represented by a classic ninja, and again, we're kind of cheating here because Saito is actually not a specialist, so after he throws his smoke grenade in here to block all the AROs and goes into press to collect the objective, he's actually not allowed to. You have to be a specialist. Having said that, if I'd realized that in my first list build, I would have just, you know, subbed something out for a Hunzagut, and the Hunzagut would have just jumped in there after the smoke grenade went down. So that's the kind of the play that would have happened. So there you go, Saito moving in, erroneously taking the supplies and then running off with it and basically just going prone behind this truck. So that's the way to play the supplies mission. You just go in there, grab, smash and grab, come all the way back here, and then you drop in at the back, go prone, and in this game I even went back into Teo Camo mode, which causes the supplies to drop, but that's okay because I'm happy with somebody else picking it up in a short while. I just want to keep Saito alive, right? Alrighty, and then this Link Team spinning in order just to move out a little bit. You've got the HMG guy who is, you know, providing arrows through this corridor once the smoke clears. So that's his position being taken up. Over here, we've got a bit of a shootout between the Zen Shah and the SAS trooper, Fort Observer here, and he's decided not to be prone. He's actually standing up, so there's a silhouette marker there. So it's a single rifle against one Zen Shah who can actually take a wound and keep going. I decided to let rip with my DEP. And luckily managed to win the face-to-face roll, and the SS gets blown up. So that was really, really good. If I had not won that and the rifle had done a wound, I would have had to keep shooting with him with the SMG while in cover, which I think eventually would have gone my way. So Zensha, up against this SAS trooper right here, does blow him up, and the game continues. Libertos, with his marker state, moving on top of this building here, is going to be able to place a mine. So we're using a Shazvasti model to represent a Libertos, placing a mine there next to the objective, so if this camo marker decides to move up on top of the tower later on, he's in for a nasty surprise. So going on to Caledonian turn 1, what's happened is that the Zensha and Saito have both run away and hidden with 2 of the supplies, and that's really the best way to play this mission. You smash and grab, and then you defend for the rest of the game. But McMurray is on his way, so here he comes. His plan is to ignore all the flash pulses because he's immune now, and walk all the way over here and do some damage. And as you guys can see, this is just really good for McMurray because he's got a chain rifle and grenades, and he's great in close combat. The only problem for him is that if he throws a smoke and then comes around the corner, the Rushi's in a 5-man link is going to be able to shoot him, so that may cause him a little bit of trouble. But how nice is it to be able to avoid every single flash pulse, right? So he throws a smoke grenade there, just setting things up, and then he moves to a point where he's not in line of sight of the robot just yet. He's just on the edge of that LOS, and he's touching the smoke grenade, so he's happy there. Now, what I believe that Caledonian player here should have done, because he's got so many orders in turn 1, and he's really only going to be doing anything with McMurray, is that he should have used the opportunity at this point to start throwing a few spec fire grenades, because the spec fire can basically hit the bot, which makes his smoke that much more effective. It can break Saito Togan out of camo state if it just comes over here, and then he can move in and start whacking people. But what he does decide to do instead is to stay in the smoke and move into close combat with this this single bounty hunter and wreck him. And that's going to cause him to get shot at by the Rushi. So, not the best choice. I even think that what he could have done is he could have super jumped through and laid down a chain rifle in such a way that it actually touched Saito as well as the other 3, and caused them all to choose between dodging or shooting. So, yeah, a questionable choice here. I feel like McMurray's let us down a little bit, but he's still he's quite tough, and he still does wreck this brawler, and he only takes a single wound from the Rushi. So that's in extremis recovery completed. He's able to do that. What happens here? So this is, again, it's a little bit of a weird decision. He's in base-to-base with the corpse of his target here and goes for the in extremis recovery, which allows the Rushi to shoot him again, which could have removed him, which, you know, I said to him later, you know, you probably shouldn't have done that. But he does pick up the classified objective. McMurray does live through that, and then moves through to fire 2 chain rifles through at Lucien Sforza, who appears now, represented by the Shukra, and the Rushi and the Zuyong. So what this results in is McMurray being removed from the table because he gets shot by everybody, including the viral rifle, but he does plant a wound onto Sforza and a wound onto the Rushi, but not the Zuyong. So he's got 3 kills, so he's done alright. But I think everybody watching this bat rep knows that he could have done a lot better, and it's still a learning experience for a newer Caledonian player, and we've got to respect that. Okay, blam. All right, we've got a camo marker moving close to the Libertos, but not up the wall, and then the Grey Rifle Link team just moving out a little bit to, you know, to get into a bit of a better position. Same with Uxie McNeil, just trying to avoid this mine being placed by the Libertos here near to the HVT, and then she comes across the battlefield a little bit. We've got the sniper taking out the Warcore, so he appears and goes to nuke this Warcore up in the distance successfully, and then moves up here to climb onto this objective to try and blast the Zuyong, who is sticking out a little bit, and does manage to hit him, but doesn't kill him, so he manages to drop into cover successfully up against that play. There he is, prone behind the wall. Camo marker continuing to move around into a better and better position, but there is this mine here represented by this token. And then it's back to Dashat Company turn 2. So Saito, having dropped the objective, moves out and throws a smoke grenade here, and the reason for that is that I want to move in with my doctor and my engineer and revive Lucien and the Ruishi. The point is that having lost McMurray, he's now down an attack piece, and if he attacks next turn, he's just going to start running out of steam, and by the end of the game, he's going to have nothing to come over and actually grab the objectives with. So that's the plan. I'm going to spend all my orders on this, moving through with the doctor and the engineer one by one, just coming around here. You can see them both. So we've got the engineer there and the doc there, and they're basically able to move in, able to use command tokens as well. You've got remote presence and a cube dude here. I assume he's got a cube anyway. I didn't actually need it because I passed the roll. But the ultimate result of that is that the Ruishi is revived and Father Lucien Sforza is revived, and we can now spend a command token to reform a 4-man link team. So this happens. Everybody is back on their feet. There's the command token there being spent, and what this allows me to now do is move out with the very powerful Ruishi and go after the Cataran. So even though the Ruishi is at long range, it picks up assisted fire from the Gulam hacker and is hitting on 9s on 5 dice, whereas the Cataran's shooting back on like a 6. So the Ruishi handily removes him. Interestingly enough, goes after the SAS lieutenant on top of the tower, and luckily for the SAS, he manages to dodge back into safety, but that could have been really rude. And then we can set up a better position here where the Ruishi is a bit further up. It's got assisted fire. Saito's gone back into Tio Camo. Everybody's looking pretty. Even the Libertos on the other objective is able to go back in. So this is the only objective that hasn't been broken open and a supply crate being taken out of it, but it's been defended by this Liberto and a mine. So for basically 10 points and 1 SWCs, you've got a really handy mid-game, disruptor, something which is very, very useful in this kind of mission. Okay, so Ariadne turn 2, we've got a grey rifle moving around fairly aimlessly. Another grey rifle here, having a bit of shootout now with the Zuyong, who, the Zuyong unfortunately is not in a 5-man link, so it's even more difficult to go after this grey rifle. The grey rifle unfortunately fails to get many hits through because it's just beyond the 32-inch range, and wastes a whole lot of orders doing this. But eventually, even though the grey, I think, goes dogged at one point. No, he doesn't go dogged. He just he tanks the armor safe, having lost one of the face-to-face rolls, but does eventually kill the Zuyong with a double wound at some point, and the day is won there. Then they can climb down from the truck and get moving. So everybody moves out, takes up better positions. They know that they're going to have to make a last gasp in the last turn to go after the supply crates, so that's what they're planning on getting in a position to do. And elsewhere we've got our other grey hanging out on the other flank for some action. This, of course, is the SAS lieutenant, so he's going back into camo state and is supposed to be prone there, supposed to be a prone marker. Our poor old Scott trooper over here, just coming barely to the edge, doesn't want to come into range of the mine just yet. And everybody else just repositioning. It's a real nothing turn, unfortunately. So turn 3 for Dashat Company. We've had the Zenchar hanging out prone behind this little walkway. What he's able to do now is just move out, since there's no Cataran sniper or anything, and use Climbing Plus to come to the top of this building here, this 40k terrain. So that's what happens. He moves all the way up to the top, goes prone, and that is one supply crate, which, the enemy is just never going to get, because they're never going to be able to get up there and do 2 wounds to him. So that's nice and safe indeed. Father Lucien Sforza is able to move over and grab the other supply crate. He's reasonably tough, so I've given him that job. We have a 3-man link team being formed between the Rishi and the Bounty Hunter and him, so that will be good defensively. Saito Tugan is moved around over to this side. Plan is that in the reactive turn I might be able to throw a smoke grenade down here to make it harder for people to come through and eliminate Sforza, because the Ruishi will be in smoke and can ARO from smoke, if you get my drift. So there is that. We've also got this Bounty Hunter with Arclight Canoon and his SMG, and shortly we'll be putting a couple of people into last turn suppression fire. Here we go. So this is supposed to be the 112 Doctor. My opponent said that she can't do that because she's got no combi rifle or rifle, but the Dozer, I believe, does, so he's in suppression fire. I think he's able to. Not that this was able to come up later, but there you have it. Link team reformed. This is for 3-man at the moment, and lieutenant order being spent to stand up and use a rifle if it's needed. And there you have it. So this is a bit of a zoom out view of my deployment zone at the end of my final turn. You can see my HVT out over here. This objective is protected by this Libertas here. I've managed to pick up one objective and move it back to here with the Zenshar. The other one is being held by Lucian Sforza there. And I've got all these little models hanging out, able to provide AROs. So for him to get anybody through there into Lucian Sforza and grab the supply crate back, it's going to be really, really hard. So we've got a Scott coming around the corner, mowing people down with his SMGs, gets a wound on the flash pulse spot, tanks the mine, and is in range of the HVT, so that's a capture. One objective point for that. Saito Tugan is being advanced upon by Uxie McNeil, and I decide to sacrifice Saito by throwing a grenade onto the Rushi. Uxie decides not to reveal because she's got a boarding shotgun and doesn't really feel like she'll be able to hit him, but I absolutely flubbed the roll and didn't actually land the smoke after all. So she ends up coming closer and starts gunning him with the boarding shotgun. Saito decides to try and dodge closer here. One thing I was worried that he would do is basically use the whole zone of control shenanigans to get up to this point and then come around the corner into close combat with my Rushi, which would not have been great. So I'm just trying to get in the way, but the boarding shotgun does beat Saito, unfortunately. I really should have just thrown a smoke, to be honest, but that's what happened. Saito does go down. Mistakes are made. Then we've got the grey team moving around. They don't have much time, but the grey moves in range of the Rushi to try and gun it down. Does render it unconscious after that little move, but we're very low on orders. So then, and the mine goes off, by the way, and hits him. The mine is able to ignore the HVT, mind you, because you can angle it slightly closer to where the building is. And we're basically out of orders. Uxia tries to go in, she gets blasted, and the Scots, unfortunately, are out of time, out of orders, out of luck, and it ends up being, I think, a 7-2 victory to Dashat, because you've got 2 objective points for 2 supply crates, +3, that takes us up to 5 for having more than the opponent, and +2 for denying the opponent any crates, so that's 7. Whereas the Caledonia army have got 2 classifieds, one for the HVT, one for McMurrah doing the in extremis recovery. So that's the game, and that's the new Dashat. I think that I can do a lot better with my lists, and also, you know, playing through the whole game, not realizing Saito's not a specialist was a bit cheeky, so slap on the wrist for that. But again, I'm pretty sure you guys can see that from that game, it wasn't really Saito being a specialist that really won it, because he could have easily used a smoke from the midfield and something else could have gone and grabbed it in my first turn, especially if I'd subbed something out for a Hunzagut. So there you go. Whew, okay, well, maybe do a Dashat review next weekend or middle of next week. For now, thanks for watching, and as always, have a good one.